Cool guys, everyone's here, so we'll get started. So yeah, thanks for all coming. I think this is our busiest one we've had. It must be a popular topic. So yeah, if you've not come before, completely safe space to say what you want or don't say what you want. You can, speak up when I kind of prompt you if you want to, or you can be completely silent. It's completely cool. Everyone's always obviously here to kind of help, not judge. So yeah, whatever's going on with the kind of questioning and stuff that I bring up, everything's cool. So nice relaxed environment. So you'll see you've got some workbooks in front of you. So I'll prompt you to kind of go to a certain page at certain times. And there'll be some little kind of tasks, interactive tasks to do as we go through. But there's a lot of kind of information in this one today, a little bit different to some of the past ones that we've done, you guys that have been here quite frequently. But yeah, first of all, this kind of habit hub for those of you that are new, I know a lot of you have been coming very, very consistently, which is obviously paying off, I think, sticking to your habits. So this is probably one of the most important hours out of the whole kind of program. If you can commit to this, it's so much more important than any of the kind of training sessions that you're going to put in, because most of the progress that happens with your body and the goals that you want to work towards are done outside of the studio sometimes. Eating habits, lifestyle habits, general movement, all that type of stuff. So that stuff has to be put into place, and it's really, really important. So if you can commit to this 1 hour a month, it's going to massively change the way you think about, if it's food, if it's general movement, just general like health and well-being, how you look after yourself, goal setting, all that kind of stuff. So there's loads of different stuff that we've kind of talked about on previous ones. So I just recommend to really if you know you need to kind of work on that kind of stuff, then book yourself into these sessions consistently, because it's going to make a big difference. So good job to you lot that have been coming consistently. So yeah, this one is, as you can see, about hormones. So I'm not going to lie, I'm not like an absolute expert on hormonal health or anything like that. I've not studied it in like great depth or anything. But I do know how it affects our bodies and how it kind of links to training and nutrition and all that kind of stuff. And I've been looking into it a lot more this year, in particular for people in the middle age. Obviously, I'm not quite there yet, luckily enough, so I've not had to look at it myself. But I'm looking at it in the perspective of all of our clients that are kind of 40s and 50s, and this workshop's not just all about that. There is going to be other people as well, 60s as well as that. So it's going to be the wide range of all people as well. But especially in that kind of middle age, you can experience different hormonal changes, obviously. So we'll go through all of that. So this workshop is about understanding. It's about understanding, what changes with age. So what does change with age, what doesn't change with age, and how to train and eat in a way that works with your physiology rather than against it. Okay, so some outcomes that we're going to go through. So by the end of the workshop, hopefully you will understand how hormonal changes affect body composition, strength, energy, and recovery, why menopause and testosterone decline change the kind of training response that we work towards as well, and how to adapt exercise, protein, food choices, and recovery, what habits make the biggest difference long term, and how to apply this whether you are in menopause, not yet in menopause, male, female, younger, older, doesn't matter. So there's going to be a little bit of kind of different topics as we go through, okay? So what do you most want to kind of understand better? Just kind of show of hands. Fat gain? Yeah, quite a few. Energy? Yeah. Training? Cool. Sleep? Okay. Nutrition? Cool. So a bit of a mix of everything there then. So we'll go through some kind of myth busting to start with hormones. So what most people can believe: hormonal changes mean fat gain is unavoidable. Certainly not. Cardio is the best way to manage midlife with weight gain. Definitely isn't. If I'm older, I should lift lighter. It's not the case. Low energy means I should train less. Also not the case sometimes. And if I eat less, I'll fix it. Not always the case as well. So many people assume the answer to hormonal change is to do less, eat less, or just accept that decline is like a reality, but the body usually needs just more of a precise stimulus. So not less support, not doing less, just more of a precise stimulus in terms of how you attack your nutrition, how you attack your training, and all that kind of stuff, which is what we're going to go into in depth. So, kind of key message, hormones influence metabolism, our muscle, fat storage, energy, mood, recovery. So all these things can be affected because of it, and you might have obviously experienced that yourselves. But lifestyle strongly influences our hormones as well. So we can do something about it through changing our lifestyle. So I don't want to kind of bore into too much of the science stuff. I want to keep it nice and practical and like day-to-day life, but it is important to go through it a little bit. So hormones are basically like chemical messengers. So they tell your body to store fat, burn fat, build muscle, feel hungry, feel tired, regulate your temperature as well. So these are all things that you can kind of experience. But the key hormones are relevant to fitness. So we've got estrogen, so bone health, metabolism, mood, fat distribution, testosterone, muscle mass, strength, libido, energy, insulin, blood sugar regulation, fat storage, cortisol, stress hormone, recovery impact, and then growth hormone, so recovery and muscle repair. Okay. So I'm whizzing through these a little bit because there's quite a lot of information to go through today. But when we get to our tasks, then it'll kind of help a little bit. So I just want you to think, so this isn't in your books, but I just want you to have a little think. What lifestyle factors do you think influence your hormones? So we're just going to spend 2 minutes, if you just kind of speak to the person next to you, just get a little bit of conversation going, and then we'll come back to it. Cool guys, we'll move on now. Has anyone got any good ones they want to shout out?
Sleep.
Sleep, very good.
Stress.
Stress, nice.
Eating at the right times through the day.
Meal timings, yep, nice. Activity, good. Alcohol, nice, yep. Yep, all really good. So yeah, sleep, strength training, diet, body fat levels, stress, alcohol, activity. So you got nearly all of them. Very well done. We've all been revising. So yeah, all these things can affect our hormones, obviously. So these are all influenced heavily by our daily habits, is what I'm getting at. Yeah. So daily habits are going to affect how our hormones are behaving, and then if our hormones are behaving in a certain way, that's going to affect our results, how our body adapts. You know, through strength training, through how we're eating. We can be doing all the work in the world, but if we're, for example, too stressed, or if we've got too much alcohol in our system too often, then it's not going to make a difference because we're not going to be able to optimize our health properly, okay? So what I want you to do is go on to the first page, and then you can circle the major influences that you feel are affecting you, and then you can write down below, how are they affecting you? So pick as many as you like, or you can pick like your top 2 or 3. Cool guys, so I won't get you to read them out, but just keep that to yourselves, and then as we go through this, then you know kind of what to focus on a little bit more to you personally. So we're going to go into like why body composition changes then because of this. So as we age, several things tend to happen. Muscle mass gradually declines, so that's quite an obvious one that a lot of people can notice. Our resting metabolic rate may reduce slightly as well, so metabolism slows down. Recovery can become less efficient as well. We tend to recover less. Insulin sensitivity may worsen, so fat storage can happen. Stress and sleep issues become more impactful. So sadly, that's what happens as you get older. But there are things that we can do to kind of help that, okay? And also, yeah, body fat is more likely to be stored centrally as well. So you might notice that, you know, around the midsection, that's where, you know, fat gain can happen as you get older a little bit more. So a lot of people blame hormones only. The real picture is a lot broader than that. So hormones interact with muscle mass, activity, sleep, stress, food intake, and recovery, okay? So we're gonna go through all of that today and make sure that we're kind of optimizing it as best as we can for ourselves. So we're gonna go into something called anabolic resistance now. So don't think too much on like the technical names of it too much, but the concept is here. So as we age, the body becomes less responsive to certain things, okay? So things like resistance training, dietary protein, and this basically means that muscle is harder to build, muscle's easier to lose. The training signal, therefore, needs to be a lot more intentional on what we're actually doing, okay? And protein intake needs to be a lot more effective as well. So it's more important. As we get older, strength training and protein levels are more and more important. They're more important to somebody in the 50s than they are to someone in the 30s, okay?
So just on that last one,
Yeah.
the training signal needs to be more intense. What does that mean?
We'll go into that. Yes. Yeah, we've got a whole section on training. Yeah. So yeah, this is one of the most important concepts in the workshop. Younger bodies can often maintain muscle with a lower quality stimulus, right? Older bodies usually need better programming and better nutrition to get the same response. Sad, isn't it? But that's kind of how it is, unfortunately, our human biology. So, you know, someone younger than you can be doing less and getting a better response from it. So therefore, we need to work even harder, or not necessarily work harder, but work smarter when we are training to get a better response out of it, okay? So have you ever felt like what used to work for your body just doesn't work the same anymore? Yeah, a few nodding faces, yeah. So things you were doing in your 20s and 30s were working, and then it kind of stops. So that's why we need to change the system a little bit and change the strategy as we get a little bit older. And trust me, you're all doing that in your training as well, the way we've set things up, and I'll explain how that all works. So we're going to go into all the training in a little bit, but first we're going to go into kind of women's hormones and menopause, and then we'll go into men's after that. So perimenopause and menopause obviously usually occurs around kind of 45, 55 years old. So key hormonal changes can be obviously decline in estrogen and progesterone. Common symptoms: weight gain around the midsection, reduced muscle mass, bone density loss, hot flushes, fatigue, and sleep issues as well. So you might have experienced that yourselves. So the body becomes less metabolically efficient, but lifestyle changes can significantly help that, okay? So as we go through that kind of phase, then metabolism can definitely slow down, but there's things in our lifestyle that we can do to kind of mitigate that, yeah. So estrogen really matters because it helps to support bone density, muscle maintenance, insulin sensitivity, cardiovascular health, recovery, nervous system function as well. So a really important part of this is when estrogen does drop, women can notice that recovery slows down a lot. You know, your sleep, your body composition and training tolerance might feel a bit different sometimes. That doesn't mean that you're completely broken or anything like that. It doesn't mean your body is failing you. It just means that the body just needs better support around those areas a little bit better, okay? And it's not just for menopausal women as well. Even if you are not in menopause, it still matters. This is because hormonal fluctuations can affect training tolerance and energy as well. So different cycles. Underfueling can often worsen symptoms and performance, okay? So this is probably a very common area. What a lot of women can do is underfuel, overtrain, and then that tends to make the situation a lot worse. And stress can disrupt appetite, recovery, and cycle regularity as well, okay? So for high stress, that's going to put a negative impact on how you're feeling, obviously, but also the way your body recovers, training stimulus, all that kind of stuff. And muscle and bone are built earlier in life and protected later. So this workshop isn't only about menopause, okay? It's about understanding, female physiology across stages of life and building habits now that protect future health as well, okay? So it doesn't matter kind of where you're at in your life with this, but it's all going to help. So a quick run through of menstrual cycle. So general pattern, follicular phase, often better energy, higher tolerance for intensity. Ovulation, some women feel strong and energetic. Luteal phase, some women experience more fatigue, cravings, bloating, or lower recovery tolerance. So depending where you're at, it can affect how you're feeling, and then that means that you may be not in your best kind of energy or effort in the training because you're just in different stages, and that's okay. That's something that you have to kind of learn about your body. So it doesn't mean that women should train completely differently every week or anything like that. It just means that you should learn to kind of auto-regulate, okay? So some phases are better for pushing, others are better for maintaining and recovering. So if you've been on other workshops, I've kind of talked about pushing and pulling before. So there's going to be some times in your life where you are pushing, you've got no stress on, you've got a holiday coming up or something like that. You're completely focused, and that's the time to really push. So you can really focus on eating really well, training really hard, getting frequent sessions in. And then there's going to be times in your life where you can pull back a little bit. So when stress is really high, you've got lots of stuff on, things on your mind, work's taking over or something like that. And then sometimes you just need to pull back a little bit. So training sessions might reduce a little bit, and that just gives your kind of brain space a lot better way to kind of manage the whole situation, because if you're constantly feeling like you need to be 100% all the time, then you're going to feel like you're failing in those times where you need to step back a little bit. So that's cool. All we need to do is just recognize when we need to push, when we need to pull back a little bit. And that's going to help with the main thing that makes anybody get progress is consistency. So instead of having a low time where you're feeling really stressed and everything's getting on top of you, and then you just completely give up and say, oh, I can't do anything this week. So I'm sure a lot of people have done that in the past. We don't want that to happen. We just want to recognize that, okay, this isn't our best week. We just need to pull back a little bit. Maybe I'll do 2 sessions this week instead of 3 or 4. Maybe we'll change our nutrition approach a little bit. We're not going to be 100% on it all week or something like that, okay? So we just need to recognize when there are times to push and when there are times to kind of pull back. And around hormonal health, especially women, then you need to kind of have a bit of intuition around this as well. So moving into kind of men. So obviously the main one is testosterone, okay? So as we get older, testosterone decline is a natural thing that happens. But it doesn't need to be the thing that holds you back or makes you suffer, okay? There are ways to kind of come around this. So in men, testosterone tends to decline gradually with age. So this can influence muscle mass, strength, motivation, libido, recovery, body fat storage, energy. So all these things can be affected by that, but there's things that we can do. So testosterone decline it's often talked about as if it's entirely like an age-driven thing. So it's purely because of age. We're just declining testosterone because of age. It's not quite that. It's also because of our lifestyle factors and what we're actually doing. Okay, so lifestyle has a major impact on this, just as anything else. So the things that lowers testosterone further: poor sleep, excess body fat, chronic stress, inactivity, high alcohol intake, poor diet quality, and inadequate resistance training. Okay, So all the things that we should be focusing on, but there could be certain areas such as poor sleep or stress or alcohol that makes this process a lot faster, so declining a lot faster. And a lot of men assume testosterone decline is simply unavoidable, it's just a natural thing that happens. But sleep, body composition, strength, training and stress management all influence the kind of hormonal environment in which your body adapts, okay? So, Chris, we're going into the coaching now. So we're going to go through some different principles that we can do in training, okay? So this is the more fun part if you're into your training and you enjoy it, because I'm going to give you some really good tips on how you can get the most out of the sessions that we put on and make them more efficient for you, okay? So really, really important stuff here. So muscle is metabolically protective. There's lots of things we can do to protect our muscle. And muscle, obviously, is super, super important, no matter who you are. So more lean muscle helps to support better insulin sensitivity, so that helps with our fat storage. Higher functional capacity, so the way we move. Improved glucose disposal, so how the energy transports when we are training and performing. Better long-term body composition. Higher resilience through aging. Better bone loading and skeletal support as well. So all these things are really, really important for longevity, right? So as we get older and we go through the years, these are all super, super important parts to make our body optimize itself better. So this is why strength training should be the anchor for both men and women as they age. Not because everyone needs to become a lifter, but because muscle protects health, essentially. So the thing that I see, certain areas of like the fitness industry and how people train, there's a lot of areas of, HIIT workouts, intense workouts, lots of running, lots of just do everything as fast as you can, CrossFit, all that kind of stuff. And for me, I don't personally think it's a good way to train for anybody, but it's especially for people that are getting older and older, okay? So that's why the structure we have at Transform is pretty consistent throughout most sessions. We've got a couple of different ones for different reasons, but the main part is strength and conditioning, and it's why we have certain rep ranges, it's why we have certain exercises, it's why we have certain rest times and all that kind of stuff. Because strength training has to be structured and it has to be organised and it has to be done in the correct way. It can't be rushed through, it can't be sped up, it can't be trying to fit in as much as you can in an hour. It's just not optimal, and we'll come into that. So training principle number 1, intensity matters. Now, what's the first thing you think of it as when I say intensity for most people? Yeah. Fast and intense, yeah? So it's not all about that. So it feels like that, and it's the first thing that would come into my mind originally. But intensity can also mean the loading of the weight or something like that, yeah? So what we'll go through this. So we want to train with enough intensity, yeah? So we don't want to go into a session and just lift a few light weights and throw them around like a piece of paper, okay? We need to kind of have a load under us. So for preserving and building muscle, light exercise alone is usually not enough. So for those people that have kind of done training sessions where it's light weights and it's lots of reps and it's fast, it's not enough. Moderate to heavy resistance is the best thing that we need, okay? Quite often that is the kind of stimulus that we want to give to our body. So working close to muscular fatigue gives the body a reason to adapt, right? So when we're putting our body into fatigue and putting it under stress, our body then needs to adapt, and that means muscle then grows. We get new muscle fibers. So in terms of coaching, and you don't really need to think about this because it's all set up for you in your sessions, and this is why it's all designed as it is. We want to aim roughly around an RPE of 7 to 9. So RPE means rate of perceived exertion, so how hard you're working on a scale of 1 to 10. So we want to be working at around 7 to 9 most of the time, okay? And yeah, in your booklets you'll have some pages if you want to write some notes. So if there's any like light bulb moments, I'd write it down. So we also want to leave some reps in reserve. So we don't want to be, you know, every set to be complete failure and absolutely dying on the last one. We sometimes want to leave a few in reserve, but not many. You know, we're talking like 1 or 2. And we want to challenge the muscle, not just complete the movement, okay? So we don't just want to do that squat and say we've done the squat. We want to feel the stress and feel like we're actually being challenged through that movement all the time. And the more you can do that, the better you're going to get out your sessions, trust me, okay? And that's a bit of a mental thing as well. I know it's very, very tough to do. The pain of going through them reps, it's often the most challenging part. But if you can think to yourself, you know, how much can I get out of this session? You know, I'm here for an hour. How much can I get out of these reps? How much can I get out of everything that I'm doing here? That's the most important part. And it's also worth noting as well, guys, for anyone that is kind of starting out as well, this might be a little bit further down the kind of journey for you sometimes. So first come, first serve with everybody is getting technique and form right. Okay, so that's why we spend a lot of time, you know, refining form, making sure that you're doing everything correctly, because we want to get that nailed first, and then you can start to load up later on in the journey, and just see those gradual kind of increments as we go through it. So a common mistake is just doing lots of movement without enough stimulus, like I said. So the body needs a meaningful signal to maintain muscle as we age. So, you know, when I see these kind of like boot camp sessions where we're just trying to fit in as many kind of movements and throwing ourselves about all over the place, and, you know, body pump and all that kind of stuff, I personally think it's a waste of time. It's good for cardiovascular health. You know, it's good for movement and getting your body going, and if you enjoy it, then fair enough. But for me, if you're going to put time into your exercise and put time into your looking after your body, then, you know, do it the right way. And you know, this is why the system that we've built is set up for that. So training principle number 2, so progressive overload. So you might have heard me talk about this on previous workshops before. But it's not optional, okay? So progressive overload essentially means creating a new stimulus as we go through our process, okay? So something a little bit more difficult each time. If we don't have that, our bodies will just stay the same, yeah? So it's like anything. If you're not challenging yourself, if you're not introducing a new stimulus, you're not going to be able to grow. So it can mean different things. It can mean more weight, which is generally the kind of main thing that we want to kind of introduce, but it can mean more reps, it can mean more control, it can mean better range of motion, improved movement quality, more total useful work over time. So there's a few things here to really kind of consider. So that's the easiest one that we can do, you know, more weight, we can add more weight to the bar, we can lift a heavier kettlebell, that's a simple thing. More reps is good, but we need to think about what I've just said. We're not aiming for loads of reps, you know, we're not aiming to get to 15 reps, 20 reps and just do loads and loads, because if we get into 15 or 20 reps, then really we need the weight to go up before that.
So, Tom, you'd be better doing 8 heavier than 12 less heavy, is what you're saying?
So we give the 8 to 12 range because if you're hitting somewhere in that bracket, it's kind of where we want to be. I'm not saying that 8 is necessarily always it's better than 12, but if we're in that range, that's why we stick to that. So what I'd say is try to work up to 12 on a certain weight, for example. So if you've got the 12 kilogram kettlebell and you've managed to get up to 12 quite comfortably, then we want to get that weight up, so 14 kilogram, and we go for 8 reps. And then once you can do 12 reps at 14 kg, when we move up again. Does that make sense? So it's not always exact like that, you know. It can be a little bit different. But if we're around that kind of rep range of 8 to 12, it's a good kind of benchmark. And similar to why we set up block 1 as well as a lower rep range of 6, that's where we really challenge ourselves on heavier weights, yeah. So we're really going into kind of strength there. And then that middle block is around, it's basically called hypertrophy. So it's a little bit kind of higher on the rep range, but we still have that load. So that's the point. We're not trying to rush through that second block. We're not trying to, you know, do it as fast as we can. We want to get some load under there and really kind of work hard still. So use those rest times in between. So that's what they're there for. And then, yeah, if we're not able to improve the weight, if we're comfortable in the reps that we're doing, then we can think about these things. So more control. Are we just squatting really fast and coming back up? Can we really control it a lot better? So that's called tempo. So tempo in the lifts. Better range of motion as well. So if we are squatting and we've only been able to kind of get halfway down, 3/4 of the way down, can we really get a full depth squat and really work on our range? Because the more range you can get, the more muscle fibers you recruit, and the better you're able to kind of build muscle through that as well. So a lot of the time we focus our progress on weight, and we think, am I getting stronger? Am I getting stronger? But can we think, am I controlling it better? Am I getting better range of movement? Is my movement quality better? Am I just getting total, useful work over time? All these things combined is better total work. Okay, so don't always rely, on the weight and the weights that are going up. Obviously, it's a nice figure to see strength going up and weights going up. I'm a sucker for that as well. You want to see numbers increase, but it's all this kind of stuff as well. So you always need to kind of think about this.
Tom, sorry, the reason, what accounts for movement quality? Because we've talked of control and range of motion. What else is movement quality?
Yeah, so it's similar to kind of like your range of motion, okay? So it's how the body kind of moves more efficiently. So if you can think about, the way you do certain reps, for example. So let's think of like an overhead press, for example. So a lot of people, your elbows can flare out a little bit, or you can be a bit shaky on the bar, or your core can go one way, if you're not engaging your core. So is that movement overall getting higher quality? So are our elbows in a fixed position? Is our core nice and strong? Are we able to extend all the way up to the top and back down, nice and smooth? So just how we're kind of moving in movements. Lunges, for example, as well is a challenging one. Are we getting all the way down close to the floor, keeping a nice neutral spine? So lots of different kind of like movement qualities. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Tom, sorry. So if I was stuck at a weight, this makes a bit of sense to me. If I'm stuck at a weight and I feel like I each week I'm not getting anywhere with it, but I could be staying at a weight and doing useful work because I'm working on all the other things and I'm still...
Yeah, 100%.
So in fact I can't get the next weight, doesn't matter.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Yeah, that's it. That doesn't matter at all. Like, you'll get to sticking points sometimes, and that weight's just you're basically a kind of mechanical failure, they call it. So mechanically you can't push anymore. So we want to then improve the quality of that work. So like a bench press, for example, if you are really struggling, it's going up, but it's taking quite a while to get to that full range, 1 week and then 2 weeks later, bam, yeah, so you're able to push a lot smoother. That means that your muscle has grown, you are stronger. You might not be able to lift a heavier weight, but you're moving it in a much better way. Yeah, so you do have to kind of think about those little things as well, because it is massively important. Okay. So for many people, consistency without progression just basically becomes maintenance, yeah? At best. To improve or even preserve muscle through aging, the body needs progressive challenge. Yeah. So it's one of the most important parts of your journey. We need to see progression all the time. Okay. And to be honest, in terms of weight, after you get through your first 12 weeks or longer, maybe you can maybe be looking at 1% increase each week. So it doesn't sound a lot, but that's kind of as much as you're going to gain. So our strength goes up quite slowly, just naturally, yeah. So 1% difference, even 1% each week, is like a good target to kind of aim for, yeah. So training principle number 3, volume versus recovery. So more isn't always better in some occasions. So we want to have enough volume to stimulate an adaptation, basically, okay? But not so much volume that recovery can't keep up either. So this is another thing that you have to kind of consider is, are we doing enough work, but are we recovering enough as well? So recovery is so important, and I've underestimated this a lot in my time as well. So for general guidance, we want to aim for quality work first of all. You know, everything that we want to do needs to be good quality. We want to avoid junk volume. So this is where a lot of people can fall into a trap, is just trying to fit in, you know, lots of different things and getting as much in as we can, which is a great mentality to have, because we want to push ourselves and get more in. But if it's not really doing much good, then it's having an effect on recovery. And we don't want that to happen. We don't want to just be throwing lots of different things in there that aren't really making a huge difference. We'd rather have less, much higher quality work than lots of middle quality work, basically. So that means our recovery capacity basically matters more as we age. Stress, poor sleep, or menopause symptoms as well. So all these different things basically mean a lot more as we get older. So some clients need more work, others need less but better work. And the answer is not always train harder to everybody. Sometimes it's recover better and train more intelligently. So you might be sat in one or two of them camps. You might need to be doing more work and training harder, but you know, a lot of the times we could be doing that too much, and therefore we need to pull back a bit, think about our recovery, and just train a bit more intelligently sometimes as well. So principle number 4 is about power. So power actually declines faster than strength. So this is something fairly new that I've kind of discovered as much as well. But this is the reason why we have our plyometric movements in our workouts. So in block 1, we always have a little power movement in there. That's the reason why that's put into our scheduling in our structure, because a lot of training programs and training plans can neglect power, but it's so important because it does decline more as we age. So I'm talking about, if we're thinking about, you know, very older people, 70s, 80s, getting up off a chair gets a lot harder because there's no power to push up. You know, you don't often see many older people that are of average kind of health jumping or skipping or something like that, because power has completely depleted. So that's why we need to include some bit of power, plyometric training, into our routine as well. So power is basically the ability to produce force quickly, okay? So it can be jumping, it can be doing something really fast, okay? And it basically matters for balance, getting up from the floor, catching yourself if you trip, athleticism, and confidence as well, confidence in movement. So some examples of these are some like fast sit to stands, some controlled step ups, medicine ball throws, low level kind of explosive reps with safe technique. So don't kind of confuse this with, you know, when I was saying go really fast with anything. These are kind of controlled low reps that are very focused in a specific target, basically a specific outcome. So most people only think about strength. That's the only thing they think of. But power is a huge marker of healthy aging and function as well. So that's why we need to do a little bit of power movements in our workouts, and that's why we plan it in there. So moving on to cardio then. So where does this fit into all of it? So in history, it's always been cardio, you know, run, long distance things. You know, we need to do all these high intensity, longer style training to lose weight, but you know, where does it really kind of fit in? So it still matters. I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all, but it shouldn't replace strength. Strength's number 1. So cardio supports heart health, calorie expenditure, recovery capacity, general health, mood as well, if you enjoy it. And the best approach is basically strength training as a foundation. Strength training number 1, like I say. Walking and lower intensity cardio for health. So walking is really important. And then just cardio used strategically, not as a punishment. So if you don't enjoy cardio, if you're running yourself into the ground kind of thing, where you're kind of adding it in and you don't really enjoy it, then we need to put it in strategically, okay? So if we're doing enough strength training and we're doing enough walking, enough steps, that's all you need pretty much. If we need to really improve our cardiovascular health, we can put in some light cardio into our routine as well, which can help with things. But in general, if we focus on our strength training and then we add in some walking and general movement as well within our week, then we're going to be very, very healthy people, okay? So cardio is not essential, but it can be used as a tool and it needs to be strategic, okay? So just thinking about hormonal changes, so too many people respond to those by adding just endless cardio, okay? Usually the better answer is to protect muscle first, improve activity levels and use cardio intelligently, okay? So the first things first, you can kind of get the theme of this whole workshop today is protecting muscle and really focusing on that, and that's what we want to achieve. And then we can use cardio as like an add-on, a bonus, okay? So we're just going to go into some nutrition principles now. We will go into some kind of activities that you can write down soon. So first up, protein does matter, not just daily total. Because of anabolic resistance, older adults often benefit from a higher protein dose per meal, spreading protein across the day, aiming for meaningful amount at breakfast, lunch and dinner. So a practical idea is to aim for around 30 to 40 grams protein per meal. This works well for generally most adults. So if we can achieve that, it's going to help us maintain and build muscle a lot easier. So we've got this mechanism in our body called MPS, which is muscle protein synthesis. And it's basically how you retain and build muscle. And eating frequent protein can help to stimulate that mechanism a lot better. Okay? So one of the biggest mistakes is just eating very little protein all day and then having one high protein dinner. So better distribution basically gives the body repeated opportunities to support muscle, okay? So when we look at our diet, we've got to think about our own routines and what works for some people might not work for other people. So, you have to take like an individual approach, but in general, just spreading protein sources across the day helps us to support muscle a lot better physiologically. So nutrition principle 2 is the total daily protein that we need. So just a useful range for most active adults is around 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, basically, okay?
1.6 to 2.2 per kg.
Yeah. So if you're in that kind of mid-range, that's probably where you want to be aiming for. If you're doing lots of resistance training, if you're doing lots of strength training, I'd aim for the higher range, okay? So this can help support muscle maintenance, recovery, satiety as well, so feeling fuller for longer, and body composition as well, so how our body looks. So this is often much higher than what many people currently actually eat. So if you really look down in your diet and count up how much protein you're having per day, it's often a lot lower, especially in women and older adults as well, okay? So number 3 is insulin sensitivity. So with age, and especially with menopause, insulin sensitivity may worsen, and this can contribute to poorer blood sugar control, increased hunger or cravings, easier fat gain around the middle, and lower energy stability as well. So some helpful strategies include protein in meals, include fibre-rich foods, base meals around whole foods obviously, place more carbs around training can be helpful. And walk regularly as well, especially after meals. It can help with digestion. So this is why movement and meal structure matter really quite a lot. It's not just about calories, it's about how the body handles food, how our body kind of operates because of how we're nourishing it, yeah? And then number 4, energy availability. So under-eating can make things worse, and this is where a lot of people can go wrong. So too little food can worsen fatigue, recovery, sleep issues, training performance, cravings, hormonal symptoms, muscle loss risk as well. So if we're just under-eating and not nourishing ourselves enough, then all of these issues can happen. And then what do you think is going to happen to our bodies? It's not going to respond very well, yeah? So that's why fat loss can stall, that's why muscle building can stall, because we're just under-eating and we're not giving our body the right kind of responses that it needs. So many people, can assume if you eat less and exercise more, as hormones change, which is, it is true. If you eat less and you move more, you're going to lose weight in general. But when we're thinking about our hormones and thinking about this kind of time of life, if energy intake is just too low, the body becomes more stressed, and that's what I want to kind of get to you here. It becomes more stressed and recovery worsens, and then this just backfires. So if we're too stressed and we're not recovering enough, then the body's just not going to be able to deal with it and adapt the way you want it to. So that's why under-eating and overtraining can often make things a lot worse. So it's just about getting that balance right. So a quick run through for menopause. So we need adequate protein, calcium-rich foods, vitamin D, omega-3s, fibre, hydration, really important. So this is going to be really important to get into your diet going through menopause, okay? And it's not about a special menopause diet or anything like that. You don't have to eat completely different. It's about meeting the needs that become more important in this phase. So muscle, bone, recovery, appetite control, and just like long-term overall well-being and health, okay? And then in terms of men, so with lower testosterone, we've really got to focus on protein quality and total intake as well. Body composition management, food quality, sleep supportive eating patterns as well. Limiting excess alcohol, really important. And then not relying on supplements over the basic nutrition kind of principles. So many men can look for testosterone fixing supplements or things like that. Usually the bigger wins just come from a better body composition overall, better sleep, less stress, more resistance training, better diet quality, so just overall better quality of living. And then, moving into kind of recovery as a hormone strategy as well, very, very important. So you don't get stronger from training, believe it or not. You get stronger from the recovery. So if we were always training, but not sleeping and recovering, our muscle would never grow. All your muscle building and progress in terms of your body composition comes from when you are at rest and sleep. So the recovery part needs to be just as important as the kind of training part. And that's often something I've kind of neglected. You want to train all the time, you want to do as much as you can, but if you're not getting your recovery right, then it doesn't quite work. So this influences cortisol regulation, muscle repair, appetite, mood, training readiness, hormonal resilience as well. So if we're recovering as we should, we're resting enough, we've brought our stress levels down, we're able to do all these things a lot better, yeah? And training is just the signal of all of that. So training is the signal, recovery is where the adaptation happens, yeah? So training is the first step. You put your body under stress, you do all the hard work, and then the recovery is where everything repairs, it rebuilds, and we grow better and stronger. And that is why sleep is so important, and it can be often very neglected with this. So sleep in performance and hormones, it's going to worsen hunger and cravings. So we've got to hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin, which affect our appetite. So if we're underslept, we've got sleep deprivation, then we're going to suffer with that. Insulin sensitivity, testosterone recovery, mood and motivation as well. So all these things can worsen because of poor sleep. So practical sleep can support consistent sleep and wake time. You know, we've gone through sleep on another workshop before. Morning light exposure, limiting caffeine too late as well, so nothing after 3 p.m. Cooler sleeping environment. Some of you laughing there, relying on that caffeine intake. And then reducing alcohol close to bed as well, obviously, and just having a wind down routine. So actually winding ourselves down before we go to bed so we can get better quality sleep. So for many kind of midlife clients and people, improving sleep is one of the highest returns that you can do, okay? So if you can improve your quality of sleep and the amount you sleep, that's going to give you a bigger kind of response to your body than probably most things. And then we've got stress and cortisol as well. So stress changes our training tolerance. So poorer recovery, higher fatigue, greater emotional eating as well, more abdominal fat gain through stress, reduced training performance, worse sleep. So if we're always constantly stressed and we're not managing our stress, then, you know, training and eating well and everything, it's going to get a lot harder because our body is basically just struggling our way through the whole process. So if we can really get on top of stress, if you are someone that kind of struggles with stress, then results are going to multiply massively, okay? So this doesn't mean that cortisol is bad. It just means that chronic overload without enough recovery changes your like internal environment basically, okay? So we're on to a task eventually. I've done a lot of talking there, so my voice is killing me at the moment. But what we'll do is circle what drains your recovery the most right now, okay? So have a look through them words, and I just want you to circle what drains your recovery the most. Cool, so hopefully we've all got something there. And then I just want to quickly move into kind of individualizing this whole thing a little bit for each of you. So the right plan depends on the person, obviously. So you're all going to be a little bit different stages of the journey, different lifestyles, you know, different everything. So it can all depend on you. So for example, if you are high stress or poor sleep, we want to keep strength training. We want to reduce any unnecessary volume that's going on in our week. We want to just focus on consistency and prioritize recovery as well, okay? So if you're a person with high stress, that's the things that you need to be focusing on. If you are basically deconditioned, so if you've not been training for a while or just a complete beginner, we just want to start with movement quality, build a routine first that's going to work, and then add overload gradually as we go on, okay? So we can just start with movement quality, getting in a good routine, and then gradually start making things a little bit harder. That's the things that you need to focus on. Experienced exerciser, so somebody that's been doing this a little bit longer, 6-12 months or more. We want to push progressive overload more deliberately, so we really want to think about the progressive overload a little bit better. We want to tighten our nutrition structure, so really zoning on how we are prioritizing nutrients going into our body and how we're eating. And then, yeah, use structured recovery as well. So we really want to think about, you know, when we're training, when we're recovering, are we recovering enough? Are we training? Are we still getting the same level of intensity that we need? That's where we need to kind of start to think about that a little bit more. And yeah, guys, like expert coaching isn't about, you know, giving everyone the same plan, obviously. It's about matching the plan to the current physiology and lifestyle that you're actually at. So that's why we go through all these different things, because you're going to be at different stages of your lives and different lifestyles and everything. So if we can match it with where you're at and then put a clear plan in place in terms of the steps that you actually need to take, then results are going to get better, we're going to feel better, healthier and happier, okay? So what most people get wrong is just relying on cardio instead of strength training, under eating protein, eating too little overall, expecting the body to respond the same way as it did when you were 25, training hard but recovering badly, chasing perfection instead of consistency, assuming fat gain is inevitable when it's not. So these are just a common mistakes that a lot of people can fall into the trap of, which is completely understandable, but we want to come away from them and start to get the right things going on. So most people don't need more effort, they just need better strategy sometimes. Some people need more effort occasionally, but on the whole, you know, we need more of a better strategy, okay? And then just going into habit change. So habits drive hormones more than motivation does. So if we're getting habits built, that's why we've been doing these habit hubs for however long now. So regular strength training, hitting protein targets, walking daily, sleeping consistently, managing stress proactively, planning meals rather than reacting to hunger, and then training according to recovery, not guilt. Okay, so don't fall into the trap of, oh, I need to train all the time, I need to train, am I recovering enough? Can I go into the next session at 100%? Most hormonal improvements do not come from like a hack or, you know, something you see on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. It's come from repeated behaviours, okay? So they're often enough to change the internal environment of our bodies, okay? So repeatable behaviours that just become part of our lives. And then this is the hormone optimization pyramid. So you've got this in your books as a reminder. First, we want to focus on strength training. So that's the building block of everything that we're doing. And then we can think about protein and total nutrition. Sleep and recovery is next. Daily movement. And then stress management and consistency. So if all of this is a bit overwhelming and we're thinking, where do I start? You know, there's all this kind of stuff. Think about this, okay? So if we can get our strength training, that's the most important part. Get a consistent routine with that, get our movement quality better. Then we want to start thinking about, you know, getting protein into our diet, and then, you know, the total kind of overall nutrition concept as well. And then we can start to think about sleep and recovery a little bit better. And then we can get our daily movement up a little bit more. And then we can start to think about stress management and consistency. Obviously, we want to be optimizing all of this eventually, but, you know, step by step, and then we'll kind of get there, okay? So most people try to start at the top with supplements or quick fixes, you know, falling into that trap. But the foundation is strength, nutrition, sleep, movement, and consistency, okay? The boring things, I know, but it works. So you got a quick task to do as well. So circle the 1 to 3 top areas that you currently your weakest link. Cool. So,
Sorry, Tom.
Yeah.
Do you want fasting?
No, I've never done fasting.
Do you have a view on it?
Or do I have a view?
Think it's best to never.
Some people do. Some people do. And you know, I'm never going to like put anything down. If it works for someone, then it works. But just from my own experience and my own knowledge, like frequent eating is really beneficial. I've responded very well to that. And I don't want to go through the pain of not eating for like an extended time. And all the evidence suggests, you know, frequent protein, frequent meals, it stimulates your body, you know, it retains muscle better. If you're fasting, then that's a long window without protein, and then that means that, you know, muscle retention and muscle building is gonna really suffer. It also puts you into a trap of potentially overeating when you do eat as well, because you're going to be so hungry. But, you know, if it works for some people, then it works. So I'm not going to like ever, you know, banish any ideas. But for me personally, I don't quite agree with it. Yeah. So a quick action plan. We're nearly finished now, guys. So your next step, I just want you to choose one: training action, nutrition action, and recovery action. So some examples: training could be complete 3 strength sessions a week, stay consistent with that. Train closer to true effort on key lifts. You can track progression for 4 weeks and see if you're actually progressively overloading all your lifts. Nutrition could be eating that 30 grams or more protein at breakfast, including protein at every meal, increasing fibre with lunch and dinner. Recovery can be, set a fixed bedtime, a good sleep and wake cycle, reduced late caffeine, and then add a 10-minute walk after dinner for better digestion as well, more movement.
Now, what does the second point mean? Closer to true effort.
Sorry?
What does the second point mean under training? Train closer to true effort.
So if you think about the kind of exercises that you're doing, do you really feel like you're going to full effort? Like, are you lifting to your full capacity? So again, because you're quite early in your journey, that's maybe not as crucial for you as kind of movement quality and getting kind of routine and structure.
Yeah, because that was my next question. Like, how do you determine if you should push a bit more and improve on the true effort, or actually your body's clearly and it's time to stop? Yeah,
and it's a hard balance, and that's what the coach is there for. That's what Harry and Dexter, etc., are going to be there for, to make sure that you're getting the quality right, but you're not kind of underdoing the intensity as well, and just getting that kind of balance. It's not always that easy, but they're there to kind of get that balance. But it's always movement quality first, and then once you feel comfortable with that, then push the progression. Cool, guys. So to finish off, we want to leave with a strategy, not just information. So I always say this: don't just come here, write in these books, put them in a cupboard somewhere, and then not do anything with it. So make sure we actually get onto all these tasks that we've kind of written down, put it into place.
Stretch the bits.
I know, it's a long day. You have to listen to me talking for an hour.
Doing all these things, all these new plans.
So yeah, guys, put it into place. Make sure you act on it. If you've got questions, let me know as well. Always happy to help. And then, final message. So, hormone changes are real, but decline is not inevitable. So that's what I want you to take away from this. The body just needs enough muscle stimulus, enough protein, enough recovery, enough movement, and enough consistency. And just take your time with it. Don't get kind of overwhelmed with everything. Just work on the things that are really important to you now, and then you can build up over time. To finish, the goal is not to turn back time. The goal is to train and live in a way that supports strength, energy, body composition, and long-term health through every single stage of life. Okay? And then the next one is going to be the last Tuesday of every month again, so 28th of April. So it's already in the calendar, so you can get booked in if you want to come to the next one. There'll be a different topic. I'll put that out probably a couple of weeks before, so you know what it's going to be about. But yeah, thanks for coming, guys, and hope you all have taken something from this.
Thank you.
No worries.